the name of tasawwuf and tariqah and marifah. There can't be any bigger enmity of Islam and Deen and Sharia and tariqah, suluk and marifah and tasawwuf bigger than this. And who are their customers? We. Who are their customers? Do they get their customers from heavens? Tell me. From Bradford, from Nelson, from London, from Belgium, from England, people living in England and UK, highly qualified families, Western families living here, having awareness, having consciousness, having knowledge. The people who came here 30, 40 years before, they are quite conscious and they are well aware of the things. And they are sending pounds like the rivers and like seas on them. And the iman of the new generations is being distorted. This is what Maulana Rum is stating, that these are the wrong claimant of Sufi peers. Then the Shaykh, the Salih, who was Allah's friend and who was sent by Almighty God, he came and he started treating and curing that girl. He asked the king that I want some seclusion. If you leave us altogether alone, just briefly finalizing and the whole thing, he put his hands, the king gave them a privacy. He put his hands on the pulse of that lady, of that girl. Now he starts the diagnostic process. He put his hands on the pulse. And then he started asking various questions from her. Various questions from her. Where you are from, my daughter? Which is your city? The king opened his hands. No. And that perfect physician, that Tabib Kamil, Sheikh Kamil, started asking various questions. While putting his hands on her pulse, he went on asking various questions. And he was watching the color of her face, the palpitation of her pulse, the condition of her eyes. He was inspecting each and everything. He saw her pain. He saw her concern. And he understood that something is wrong with her. And the illness is not related to her body. Illness is related to her heart. And he understood that he has fallen, she herself has fallen into love of someone. King has fallen into love of her. Ruh has fallen into love of nafs. And nafs itself has fallen into love of something else. Nafs became the beloved of Ruh, spirit. And the soul, who has become the beloved of the spirit, itself has become lover of something else. He wanted to trace, diagnose who is the beloved of nafs, beloved of soul. This was the diagnostic process. And then Maulana Rum says that the ailment of the lover is separate from all other ailments. And the ailment of love cannot be understood unless somebody has experienced the ailment of love. So he very gently went on asking, where is your native town? He said to that girl that for every suitable, all people of each town is separate. So tell me, which is your native town? And then he asked, she told, that is my town. He asked, who are your relatives? Who are your friends over there? Just name them. She started naming one by one. He asked about her kinships, her relationships, her friendships, her companies, which she used to have in her native town. He was an expert. While he was asking the questions, he was carefully putting hands and fingers on her pulses and watching the palpitation of the pulse. And he was watching the color of her face. Went on listening to her story, which she continued, and he was watching carefully the beating of pulse, so that whatsoever name her pulse should begin to throb, he would understand that here lies the object of her soul, of her nafs. Here lies the desire of her nafs. He continued up to the friends, her relatives, her cities, towns, from town to town. She mentioned the name of a certain town. Then she mentioned the name of another town. Then she mentioned the name of another town, and this was the process going on. Finally, he was asking about various towns, and finally, when he asked about Samarkand, a city near Bukhara, when he reached to that city, the reason of asking is that there are many ailments of nafs. When nafs is ill, soul is ill, and soul falls into love of something, it doesn't mean that every soul will get into love with gains, with wealth, with money. No, there are different ailments of nafs. Somebody's soul has fallen into love of money. Somebody's soul has fallen into love of the position. Somebody's soul has fallen into love of the power. Somebody's soul has fallen into love of his children. Somebody's soul has fallen into the sexual loves and lusts and propensities. Somebody's soul has fallen into love of arrogance. Somebody's soul has fallen into love of various other worldly pleasures. So this ailment differs from man to man, from soul to soul, from person to person. So the Kamil physician, the perfect one, he diagnoses which kind of ailment does exist in this particular soul. What kind of love? So if he diagnoses the exact nature of love, the exact nature of concern, the exact nature of connection of that soul to certain particular object, only then he would be in a position to suggest any treatment, and treatment for every ailment would be different. For A would be different. Apparently, souls of 10 people are ailing, they are sick, they are ill. But the treatment for each and every soul would be different because of the nature of the ailment. So when he named Samarkand, a big city, Nabze barhale khud bud begzand taba pursid az samar kande chukand ah sarde barkashida mahru ab az chashmash rawa shud ham chuju. Her pulse remained in its normal state, unimpaired, undisturbed, till he asked about Samarkand. And Maulana Rum says, the Samarkand, the city of Kand, the city of sweet, the city of sugar, sweet city of Samarkand. He says that her pulse jumped when he took the name of Samarkand. And her face went red and pale started turning. And for she had been parted, he found that she had been parted from some man who lives in Samarkand. And then he started asking about various professions one by one. And when he came to the name of goldsmith, her pulse again started jumping. Palpitation was very, very fast. And her tears started coming out of her eyes like rivers and canals. He knew that there is her object of the nafs is in Samarkand, and there is somebody who is goldsmith, and this nafs has fallen into love of the goldsmith. Why Maulana Rum chose a goldsmith? Because of gold. Gold is a symbol of world. Gold is symbol of worldly gains, material gains, money, wealth. Gold is a symbol. So zargar means the worldly gains. He found that the nafs has fallen into love of a zargar, of a goldsmith. When he realized, then he got the address and exact city. She told the city in Samarkand, the exact place, that is Ghatfar. Then he asked that girl, just keep this secret in your heart. Don't disclose it to everybody, anyone. Inshallah, I will cure you. And what do you mean, curing the nafs? There were two different meanings. She thought as if I am going to get my love. And according to him, then I will purify you finally. And from Amara, I will upgrade and promote you to the stage of Mutmainna and Radiya Mardiya. You will come out of this ailment. So that Tabib, that physician, came to the king and asked that now there is a person, a goldsmith in Samarkand. I want him to come here. Send some of your very trustworthy representatives and ministers to Samarkand and invite him in your palace. This was the best plan. So goldsmith was summoned from his country. And gold and rebels and some other things, very, very costly things as gift were sent to him. Why? Because dunya is pleased with dunya. If you send dunya, ahlul dunya are pleased. So this is another indication. If you send them, they are pleased and happy with you. If you take dunya away from them, they become angry. So he sent some experts and competent advisors or ministers to him. When that goldsmith saw the much of wealth and money robes, he was influenced, impressed, and he left his town, his city, his business and his children for dunya and came to the palace of king. When that person, the goldsmith, arrived, goldsmith now means dunya, arrived in the palace of king, the palace of Ruh, arrived. The physician brought him to the presence of the king. He was regarded, very nicely welcomed. And the king, the sultan, gave him a lot of gold and asked him to prepare some jewelry.